A lot of us have been scammed, but what if I tell you that in most cases, we have ourselves to blame, me included. Now, in this video, I'm going to be talking about things that have happened to me and also things that I've observed while being on the ground in Zimbabwe. Now, this also comes with a solution at the end of the video so that you can save yourself from getting scammed even in the future. Now, if you haven't been scammed, well, this video is not for you. All right, so let's kick off this by giving you an example of how easily we get scammed and why we are to blame for these type of situations. So let's say you've put together some money and you want to build a house back home. What do? We ask people back home, hey, is there land available on the ground? And people will tell you, yeah, there is land, right? The next stage is, okay, send us some money. We'll go and pay some sort of a deposit or some money to secure it. And then you send some money. And before you know it, okay, let's start building. They start building or you start sending even more money to secure that land. But you see, that process is absolutely incorrect and it's wrong because you need some sort of a process which requires lawyers to verify that that land is proper, it has title deeds, and it is really up for sale. And the person that's selling it is the person who they say they are. Now, I almost fell for this trap. There was a time where I was desperate to get land back home. And of course, all these things that I'm talking about come from an emotional place. We are emotional. That's why we make decisions really fast and we justify them with logic. So at one time, I was really desperate to get some land or even a house back home. So along came this option where I could purchase land in Crow Hill. So the lady who was selling the land was on Facebook and she said, or she was in the UK, but she was on Facebook. And she said, look, I bought this land, it's too big. I was planning on developing on it, but I've decided not to develop on the land. That's why I'm selling it. So we said, how much? She said, 20,000. I said, okay, so what do? Do we send the money over to you? And I remember she lives in St. Albans. She said, well, send the money over to me. At that point, I was so close to sending money over to her account. But do you know how dangerous that is? At that time, my wife said to me, do you know this woman? What if she turns around tomorrow and says, well, you didn't give me the money for the house. It wasn't for the house. You owed me some money. How do you even go to the authorities and back yourself up with that kind of situation or transaction? It's very, very difficult. And at that point, I realized that I was just about to part with £20,000 of hard-earned money to buy this so-called land in Crow Hill, which was actually massive because in my head, I was imagining building this massive house and big bedrooms and there's going to be a garden. I'm going to be planting my vegetables there, some grass, some trees. That's what was in my mind at that time. So that's one example. Now let's go back to the example where you want to buy land in Zimbabwe. So you tell your relatives you want some land, you've sent some money, blah, 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 blah. And you actually think you're building. So the mistake is there's no due diligence. The relatives that you're using do not know much about buying land and what needs to be done. And this is how things can easily easily go south. Sometimes they don't really want to scam you, but they are emotionally involved as well because they want you to have something. But the process they are doing is not the right process. Therefore, they are going to also lose money in that whole process. And then on our side now, we say we're scammed by family. But we're putting this family in a position where they cannot even handle these transactions because they don't know how. I grew up in a way or in a family that has never bought property. I've never been through the whole process of buying property. So what makes anyone think that I'm going to do it properly? I have to learn it from somewhere. And a lot of us don't learn this. I'll give another quick example. I have my uncle and I really feel sorry for his son. He's working so hard. He's been overseas for about, in the diaspora for about, I think 18 years now. 18 years. He bought 2 houses, and I've been to the houses. They are in an area where, I mean, the house looks fantastic, but they're in an area which does not have title. Imagine. Now, when I look at that scenario, my uncle doesn't know that that's the case. He was convinced that what he's doing is correct. And guess what? These 2 houses, there's a list circulating on the internet right now. These 2 houses are on the list of houses that need to be demolished. Now think about this. This is 18 years in the diaspora, and these 2 houses are on the list of houses that are going to be destroyed by the council. You know how devastating that is? And I'm telling you about a scenario that I know. This is my uncle, and I know he means good, but the way he did it was not correct. So if you haven't purchased land or you haven't purchased the house, you need to make sure you go through the right process. Get a reputable law firm, and also get the proper procedure done. The due diligence, it has to be done. I also want to give you an example of how I almost lost money. I actually made a video about it. There was a time I was looking for a farm, and the farm was in Chegutu. So in Chegutu now, this farm was, I think, about 60 hectares, but the amount they were asking for was ridiculous. I mean, it was so little in the whole grand scheme of things that it really shocked me, and I wanted to really go for it. So this land was going for about, I think, 40,000. It was about 60 hectares. And I was like, wow, that is massive. 60 hectares for 40,000? That can't be right. But then again, I said, look, maybe the person is desperate to sell it. And we almost fell for it. But here's the thing. Oftentimes, when we want to buy big purchases like this, we don't like spending money on the whole process, which is proper. And the example I'm going to give you is, the law firm said to me, for the due diligence, they need $1,000. At that time, I was like, 1,000? Why? Because that was a lot of money. 1,000 just for due diligence. That can't be right. And do you know what the lawyer said to me? He said, would you rather lose $1,000 than to lose the 60,000? I mean, the 40,000 or something along those lines. And at that point, it made sense. And guess what? When the due diligence was done, a report was done on all the findings, and it turns out there was a document that was missing from all of that. And that document would not be able to release the title deeds. The title deed of the whole farm was there, and there's also other documents that are supposed to be present for the transfer to be done to someone else that purchased it. But that document was missing, and I had no idea that document existed in the whole grand scheme of things. So what I'm saying to you is, we often do things without actually knowing what needs to be done. Okay, so living here in the United Kingdom for about 25 years, we have spent majority of our lifetime, especially me personally, my adult life is in the UK. And that's a fact. My early ages in life was just me going to school in Zimbabwe. But my adult life is here in the UK. And when you spend so much time in the UK, what happens is you sort of like blend in with the society, and it's a society of trust. So you take that mentality that you've built over the 25 years and we take it back home. We are very trusting. A lot of us in the diaspora, we are very, very trusting. I know it comes across as stupid. I see some of my videos where people say, Ruwa Organic, he's gullible, he's stupid. How can you get scammed so many times and blah, blah, blah. We don't see these blind spots. Why? Because I've spent half my life living a life where things are straightforward. That's why I don't see these blinkers easily. So as time goes on, you'll realize that at the end of the day, we are assigning these jobs or these activities to people that are not experienced and people that don't know what needs to be done. So if you're going to be buying land, don't buy land which has not been developed, which you haven't done due diligence. There is nothing called, okay, you've got a big piece of land, you're going to start building, and then they're going to fix the roads later. There's nothing like that. Come on. I may be wrong, but please tell me in the comments box. Can you just go on an open piece of land, start building, and then get convinced that, okay, the roads are going to be fixed later? It doesn't work like that. From what I've understood, the land has to be developed first. It has to have the roads, the sewer system, the drainage system, and then you can start building. Because without that, can you imagine a flood happens? The flood will mess up all the houses because there isn't a drainage system in place. So this is how we fall for a lot of these things. Now, the other thing as well is we create these stories, these narratives that Zimbabwe is corrupt, Zimbabwe is corrupt, Zimbabwe is corrupt. And then when we go in and we want to do simple processes, we assume that we have to pay someone money for that process to work. And I'll give you a very good example. You know, when I was making all my videos here, there's a guy I spoke to, and he said to me, he bought a farm, he was scammed, he hates Zimbabwe, you know, he will never do this again. Zimbabwe is lawless, you know, there's no law in Zimbabwe. He just said so many negatives, negative things about Zimbabwe. So I asked him, so what happened when you were purchasing your farm? And you know what he told me? He said, well, we went to Zimbabwe, we saw this farm, we were really interested in it. We were shown all the documents. And already, when he was saying this, in my head, I was like, there we go again. Here we go again. He saw all the documents, everything was laid out. He trusted the whole system. And then you know what mistake he made? He said he contacted someone high up. Imagine, high up, to make sure that this process goes through. Now you tell me, why would you need to contact someone high up? I assume it's a minister or some government official. Why? If the process is meant to be straightforward. So anyway, this guy, he gets someone high up to facilitate the whole process. And guess what? He was scammed. And when he was scammed, there's no way to report. How are you going to report? You're going to be asked even in court, since when do you buy a property where you get a government official involved? But he was of the opinion that if he gets a government official, then things are going to, go faster. And then a lot of the headache and the waiting time is going to be alleviated. But he was scammed and you can't report it. So someone like that now is going to have this hatred because they've lost a lot of money. A hatred towards the system, a hatred towards the country. And this is what's happening to us. So if we want to make sure that we don't get scammed, unfortunately, we have to pay the professionals. Don't get your dad, don't get your aunt, your brother to do these professional things because they are not professionals. Now, I'm not saying every single one of you is in that case. Maybe you have relatives that can do a very good job. Fair enough. But I'm just saying, generally speaking, we need to engage professionals. So, what's the solution to all of this? Well, I think I've alluded to that. If you're going to be purchasing land, make sure you have a law firm. Make sure that you do the due diligence. If you want to build a house, make sure you engage a construction company. A proper construction company. Don't get someone you get referred to by someone else who was referred by someone else. Oh, they do a very good job. Because everyone in Zimbabwe, no one says they can't do anything. Everyone knows how to do something. Trust me, this is what people say when you're on the ground. And we fall for it every single time. I remember one time when the clutch on my car wasn't working. A guy came and he says, look, I've been working for Audi on Audi cars for the past 15 years. I know how to fix your problem. And guess what? They made the problem even worse. I had to pay 3 times what I was supposed to pay from a Land Rover mechanic. 3 times. And they punished me for that because the part was broken and the part had to be ordered. And then the job that had to be done there took 3 times longer. But that person, I never saw them again. So no one says they can't fix a job or they can't do a job. They will convince you. So you need to be on the lookout for that. Get a proper law firm, get a construction company, a reputable one, and get proper contractors. Get proper contractors, proper companies. They are there. But you know why we don't go for these companies? Because they're expensive. Cheap is expensive. We go for cheap, and this is what happens. Even in farming, personally, I get a guy who comes to me and says, I've done chickens. Oh, okay, really? Yeah. You take that guy, you don't even check his credentials, nothing. You give him the job. Why? Because you're going to be paying him $120 a month, $200 a month. That's why. Because a professional, when they come, they want way more than that. But we don't. And guess what happens? The chickens die, especially if you start doing large numbers. They die. Maybe you want to plant some cabbages. And I've done this. I planted cabbages on a 1/4 hectare. Thought this was going to work out. It didn't. Why? Because I did not have an agronomist. Cabbages has been done for so many years. So to think that you're going to make it, different climate, different area, different everything, you think you're just going to make it, first time around, is ridiculous. So what have I learned throughout all this? I've learned that use professionals. Yes, it's going to be expensive. Yes, I might not even make a profit, but I want to see things done properly by professionals. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is how you can get things done properly in Zimbabwe. And this is how you avoid getting scammed, because everyone talks about all these shortcuts. We will go and pay someone at the deeds office so the deeds comes out quicker. No, I've done all these processes where I've bought land, I've bought a house. I did not need to pay anyone to fast track anything. But I'm not saying that's the case for everybody else. I'm telling you about my experience. I didn't have to do that. Everything was done proper. Even when it came to getting ZESA connected, we made an application and it was done proper. We didn't even need to pay anybody. So we have this idea of fast tracking things when it comes to Zimbabwe. Fast tracking things. No, this is how we get scammed. So when it comes to purchasing land or building and everything, I realized that a lot of diasporans have given up on the idea of parting with so much money. This is why I'm working on this Diaspora initiative where if you want to purchase a house or you want to purchase land, it is going to be done with this Diaspora initiative. Now, why do I think this works? Or why am I confident that this will work? Is it's going to be done collectively and we're going to spread the risk. And when we start constructing our houses, our retirement houses or our houses for investments, we are going to be using the best contractors, the best law firms, and pretty much the due diligence has to be done properly. That way, you just have to worry about just working, whatever you're paying towards, the building of your house, it just goes into a secure place because this is what matters. You want to make sure your money is secure, you're legally protected. So this is what we're trying to build. And very, very soon I'll be announcing, that we have this in place and you can come in and invest and have your retirement home back home. Or even if it's farming projects, then we all get involved in all these projects. I'm really looking forward to that. And by the way, there is a new channel that I've put together, WhatsApp group. Go ahead, sign up there, and that is where you're going to be getting all the updates. The link to that is in the video description below. Anyway, guys, I want to hear your experiences. Let me know about your experiences in the comments box below. Now, I know what I'm discussing right now did not happen to some of you. Well, it doesn't apply to you, but of course, I want to hear your views. Video description below. Until next time, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Take care.